Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. I was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. This is the I can't hear anything in my headphones edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Why wouldn't it be Monday? We have some sort of technical issues happening to start our show. Hope everybody had a great weekend. As we welcome you back after, it's the first day of spring, and there's plenty of snow on the ground, and apparently it's not going anywhere. Hey, there I am. It's like a false start. Can you do that all over again? All righty. Well, lots to get to here on a Monday. I hope everybody had a great weekend. We officially wrapped up the basketball season on Saturday night in Bismarck with the Class B championship wrapped up. Central Cass did the sweep, first time since Bishop Ryan did that in 93 and 94. You'll remember then, of course, the girls' basketball season was played in the fall as Greg Limke did the double there, coached the girls to a championship in the fall, then won the boys' title in the spring. Central Cass does that in the span of 2 weeks' time with the girls' championship in Minot and the boys in Bismarck. What a way to send them out into that middle class starting next season. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. I just wanted to say a quick shout out to our crew that some hopefully taking some well-deserved time off today. Others I know are back in the office and hopefully working shorter days today. Having done that for the better part of a decade of knowing exactly what the last 4 to 5 weeks is like being gone as much as they have been. Congratulations to them for another great tournament run. This year especially, it stood out to me the amount of amazing games we had, starting with hockey, which seems like it was 2 years ago, up in Grand Forks, capped off the way it was with the South Shanley boys winning the championship in overtime, to what the girls' B was, having back-to-back overtime games there. The Super A was super, no pun intended there, for the two teams that ended up winning the championship, and then the boys' B to have the drama that it had. The championship game lacked a bit of it. Central Cass kind of put the hammer down in the fourth quarter, but I think the sense of nostalgia all weekend long was certainly prevalent for anybody that was watching on television or was there. I think they got a sense of this being the last one. So, and our crew did a great job to bring everything home. So I wanted to say that publicly here. They don't need me to hear that because I know they did a great job, but it was fun to watch it from a different vantage point again this March to see everything brought home there. And hopefully everybody can put their feet up for a little bit. It's not that our live productions are over. We still have more to do, but certainly not in the time span or locations like we have for the last month. So from our engineering staff to sales to traffic to all of our camera operators to graphics, audio, directing, to obviously the talent, a job really well done. It was a pleasure to watch here over the last month, and I know for everybody around the state, I think they got a kick out of that. And for a majority of our on-air talent, it was their first time to experience state tournaments as they are, and I'm sure they are also looking forward to a couple days off here to regroup. I will say this, when you look at the weather outside, and here's a familiar refrain, and you guys can show a tower cam shot here, there ain't no spring sports starting anytime soon. I saw a tweet from West Fargo today about, hey, congrats, it's the first day of baseball season. Where and you know what are we playing baseball? Nowhere. That's why we could still be playing winter sports here for another week or two. I get it. Like last year was 50 some odd degrees, and the year before that was 60. There was still plenty of snow on the ground, We didn't play any winter sports here till the middle of April. So just throwing it out there that we could still have another week of basketball here. Another 2 weeks. Heck, we can go another 2 weeks of basketball here. For people that say we can't do it, here is example A here on the first day of spring in North Dakota. Not even out west. There's ain't going to be any, and we got a winter storm watch bearing down on us for tomorrow. More's coming. So I understand that, hey, there'll be some years, Dom, well, we don't have any snow. Got it. Yep. Understood. More often than not, 9 out of 10 times, we're going to be dealing with this. So if we could just play another week, it'd be A-okay. That's just my rant to start the show. It was difficult to pare down everything I wanted to get to here since we were last with you at 11 o'clock on Friday morning. We see a 16 seed beat a 1 happen for the second time in the men's basketball tournament. Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue on Friday night. The UND hockey team had its season come to an end on Friday night as well in stunning fashion, losing in overtime to St. Cloud State. We had the Minnesota girls basketball season end with a couple of impressive state champions. We've seen a few more Minnesota teams move on to the state basketball tournament. That's this week down in the Twin Cities. Spuds lost a tough one to Buffalo. DGF got a historic performance from Owen Leach in a game we televised on Friday night. Hopefully, I know people are watching the State B. I hope some flipped on extra Friday night because that was awesome to watch what Owen Leach did on Friday night against Thief River Falls. We couldn't get all on the show. And then, of course, when there is anything NFL-related, that would certainly top everything. And the news that came down late yesterday evening, Adam Thielen has a new team, as many probably have already seen. The Detroit Lakes native is leaving the NFC North for the confines of the NFC South. Thielen signing a 3-year deal with the Carolina Panthers yesterday. $25 million deal for the 32-year-old who will play for the first time in his professional career outside of the state of Minnesota. He'll turn 33 in August. It's a $25 million deal, as we mentioned, $14 million fully guaranteed after he was released by the Vikings 10 days ago. And heads to a team that has the number 1 pick in the draft. You remember Carolina on that same day that Thielen was let go. The Panthers made the massive trade with Chicago to move up to the number 1 spot. They gave up their top receiver, and DJ Moore went to Chicago as part of the deal. And now he'll play in Carolina. My family and I will always cherish the memories we created on and off the field. Minnesota is and will always be home to us. He wrote that on Instagram last night after announcing that he was signing with Carolina. Now, the Panthers signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year deal, who very well, I mean, this is how it works with Andy Dalton, that normally he'll start 6 to 7, 8 games this year and be maybe the placeholder for whoever they end up taking. If it's Bryce Young, if it's C.J. Stroud, if it's Anthony Richardson, whoever the Panthers deem as their guy at quarterback. I think there was many that thought Thielen was in pursuit of a title ring, which is why maybe the Jets were in consideration with his familiarity and friendship with Aaron Rodgers. Granted, that hasn't been consummated yet. But Carolina's not necessarily a team that is on the cusp of winning. The Panthers won 7 games this past year and clearly have a quarterback question. Best way to probably phrase it. Now, if Thielen's looking to get the ball, then there's the answer there. If he certainly was going to see his targets go down, which happened when Hawkinson's role went up with the Vikings and Thielen became clearly number 3, sometimes number 4, behind K.J. Osborne, with Moore gone in Carolina, figure that Adam's going to be the one of the 2 guy there. And that's probably why it makes sense. Obviously, the money makes a ton of sense there, too. So he's off to the NFC South. And in a division that appears to probably be as wide open as ever with the Saints, the Panthers, the Bucks are in a bad way. That just is and the Falcons It's anybody's guess, frankly, on who could be any good and win that division now. With Brady gone, that makes it for a wide open division. For those wondering, the Panthers do play the Vikings this season. Minnesota does go to Carolina in 2023. So there will be a homecoming of sorts as the Vikings will play the Panthers sometime in 2023. We know the opponents. We just don't know the dates yet for the NFL schedule. That'll come out either late April, probably after the draft, so early May is when the schedule will come out for 2023. Also yesterday, Minnesota Wild wrapping up a busy home weekend. The Wild lost to the Boston Bruins on Saturday, the best team in the NHL. It was their first time the Wild had lost in regulation since the middle of February. They had put together a 14-game point streak, which was the best in franchise history. No time to wallow about it. They got right back on the horse yesterday afternoon, with Alexander Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals at XL Energy Center. Anytime that Ovi comes to town, you've got a thing on your hands here. But nobody told Matt Boldy that, because the Wild phenom was phenomenal. Sorry for the pun there. Yesterday, scored the first 2 goals in the game for Minnesota. That is a heck of a one-timer there to bury it. Gave the Wild an early lead. Ovechkin scored to make it 2-1. It's a 4-1 game when Ovechkin scores again. His second of the game, both power play goals, 39 goals. He's 74 away, by the way, from passing Wayne Gretzky. It's going to happen. It's going to be a thing. But they don't have Matt Boldy, apparently, who was on fire yesterday. He scores here on the unassisted breakaway goal. That was the proverbial nail in the coffin for the Wild, who beat Washington 5-2 yesterday. 5-3, as the Wild gave up a goal later in that game. But a big win for Minnesota behind the Boldy hat trick. Their 40th victory of the season. It's remarkable where this team has come after where they were at the All-Star break, where they were stumbling around. They couldn't win. They lost the first 2 couple of games of that 7-game homestand. Now they're red hot. Only 1 point back now of Dallas for the division lead. That's how this goes each and every day in the NHL, depending on if you win or lose, that you're either going to vault up or you could fall down a spot. That's what happened yesterday. Now, see, Colorado, though, with 2 games in hand on Minnesota. So that's why it's important for the Wild to get as many points as possible. And if you look here for the wild card spot, they're 7 up on Winnipeg, which is not a lot. All you need is a couple losses in a row, and suddenly things get really tight at the end of the standings there. But as it stands now, the Wild will play Colorado in the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, as they have mentioned just 12 games to go in the regular season, and a big-time win yesterday for the Wild, who will be back in action tomorrow night as they'll head out east to play the Devils, and you see New Jersey as part of the playoff mix as well. They've had a dynamite year, as New Jersey. They've cooled off after they had a ridiculous start to the season, but the next 5, 6 games, 7 games for the Wild. You've got the Devils coming up tomorrow, then the Flyers, then the Blackhawks. Philadelphia and Chicago are out of it. Then it's Seattle, Colorado, and then Vegas. And you see all those teams on there as playoff teams. So Wild better get some points here out of the next couple, because after that it gets infinitely harder over the next week and a half as we come down the stretch run of the NHL regular season, which is kind of crazy to say. Lastly, before we wrap up our opening segment, NCAA basketball tournament. We talked about it all weekend long. The men had a ferocious time of getting to the 16 teams. The women are down to 24. We'll wrap up the Sweet 16 later today. South Dakota State was aiming to be part of it for the second time in 4 years. The Jackrabbits part of this crazy Friday. Honestly, you could have had 8 screens going on Friday to follow everything that was going on. If you wanted to watch the Class B, the Minnesota 8AA game, you had the Fairleigh Dickinson craziness that was happening with Purdue. I'm watching the Jacks play USC, the UND hockey game. Literally, you don't have enough devices. But the Jacks beat USC on Friday in overtime. They got a date with Virginia Tech yesterday. Vodtech, the number 1 overall seed in this particular part of the bracket. Hokies, while they may not have the environment of Lane Stadium for their football games, yesterday's game was pretty tough. With the Jacks fell behind 9-rip early. Got a bucket there from Maya Sellen to cut it to 4. They fell behind by as many as 17 in this game. Eventually it was 19 in the third quarter before they got a and 1 there from Callie Tyson. Haley Timmer scored here. They got it down all the way to 11, but couldn't get any closer than that. They missed a couple of easy layups. They could have cut the deficit to single digits. Virginia Tech took advantage after that. Hit a couple of clutch shots at the end of the game and ended up winning 72-60 was the final to end South Dakota State's season at 29-6. And it will be one of the all-time great years for SDSU, another phenomenal year. Another year where they win a game in the tournament, which has become almost automatic for the Summit League champ, no matter who it is. If it's the Jacks or USD, they're winning a game. And when you juxtapose that against what the Bison women had happened to them, and NDSU got smashed by Oregon, I don't think that was probably out of the realm of expectations we thought could happen as we learned this was the game. That the mountain is still there for the Bison. It was a heck of a year for NDSU on the women's side. But then you see what South Dakota State has. And granted, Sellen will leave. Peyton Burkhardt is gone. But everybody else is back. And the young talent on the Jacks roster, I hate to tell you, folks, it's pretty good. Ellie Kolpack from South Dakota, or from Fergus Falls, will have a much larger role on this team in 2024. They're going to be A-OK. That you see where one's going, and the other's got, all right, well, they're up here. We're still ways behind. And that goes for everybody else in the league, too. But things got a heck of a lot more interesting, though, with the announcement that the University of Minnesota had on Saturday. We'll get to that before we say goodbye here on this Monday. Fun show coming up for you here. Just a few minutes. Jeff Kolpack will be by in his usual 9:35 time slot to start off our week. Recap what we saw this weekend. It was big time for North Dakota State wrestling as the Bison have another pair of All-Americans for Jared Franick and Michael Caliendo at the NCAA Wrestling Championships. And for those in the doldrums, spring football begins this week for North Dakota State. So there's something to, I know for some, they'll be attached to that. And we'll get into that coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, Matt Norman will join us, head basketball coach of the Central Cass State Champs. What a sweep it was. And for Matt, who took over about 7 years ago, I want to say, as the boys basketball coach, and the Squirrels took their lumps. They saw Richland get really good. They saw, obviously, Kindred make it to state. Those teams were the ones, and Central Cass would be hanging around, and Oak Grove, they'd be in second or third to then build to this point and win the championship. Unbeaten as well. Second year in a row, by the way. The Class B boys champ is an unbeaten team. That is awfully impressive, considering where they were, heck, even in their opening game, in the game against Alex Burlington on Friday, to rally and win that, and then cap this off with a championship against Shiloh Christian. We'll visit with him coming up at 10 o'clock. That and a heck of a lot more here on our Monday morning. We're due for a break. We come back, we'll salute the rest of the best of the weekend. Lots to get through. Glad you're joining us on this Monday morning edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody, on a Monday morning edition of Hot Mike, WDAY Extra, InForum.com. Matt Norman, Central Cass State Champion and coach, coming up here at 10 o'clock on a busy Monday, including the Minnesota Golden Gophers will have a formal press conference this afternoon to announce the hiring of Dawn Plitzowite as their new women's basketball head coach. the former South Dakota head coach who spent the past season at West Virginia, coming back to the Midwest. We'll get into that coming up later on in our show, how big a deal that is for recruiting in this part of the world. Dawn obviously knows her stuff, was phenomenal at USD, took the Coyotes, as we know, to the Sweet 16 this time last year, landed the West Virginia gig, and then with Lindsey Whalen being let go at Minnesota, now an opportunity for her to come back, and she's got impressive recruiting ties to the area. From Wisconsin, coached at Grand Valley, obviously the success in Vermilion, and that will, I would think, open up the eyes for Gopher fans seeing what South Dakota has done. See, she got West Virginia to the tournament this year. They lost in the opening round over the weekend. That, to me, is an intriguing hire there. Remember, the Bison play the Gophers down at Williams Arena next season as part of the contract. It's a 1-for-2 deal, so the Bison will play down there twice over the next couple seasons. So we'll do much more on that coming up later on in our show. 9:20 on a Monday. We normally salute our best of the weekend. We're late on that, so let's hustle into this. And anytime we can get the XFL on our program, we'll do that, especially when it's a guy that we saw play here for a handful of years. Darius Shepard is having fun. We had Shep on the show over the summer when he was standing out in the USFL. Now he's doing it in the XFL after he got a brief try with the Broncos this past season. Last weekend, he scored a touchdown for the St. Louis Battlehawks. He's back in his home state. They're getting 30,000, by the way, for crowds there to watch them play. Scored a touchdown in the game last week against Arlington. Then on Saturday night against the DC Defenders, I got this sent to me because he goes and does this and bites you. By the way, they have the different kickoff rule in the XFL where you can't go anywhere until the receiver or returner catches the ball. Return this 80-yard. He was so good at this in college. He is having fun in the XFL right now. So congrats to Darius Shepard, who just, I have to imagine again, would hopefully get another NFL look. I know his size will discourage some, but all the guy does is make plays. He catches the ball. Packer fans remember he didn't do that in his brief time with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, a Monday night game he had against the Lions a couple years ago, but he's doing all right in the XFL. So congrats to Darius as they're halfway through that XFL season. Now, since Kyle's back, I blame him totally for this next topic because Strecker's a big baseball guy. He told me, can't believe you don't have the Puerto Rico-Dominican Republic game on our What to Watch on Wednesday. We all know what happened. Edwin Diaz got hurt. It's Strecker's fault because I watched the game. But the tournament somehow managed to keep going. Jose Altuve got hurt, by the way, the Astros star. And he broke his thumb. He's done for 2 months. But we had a thriller on Saturday. Another thing you're going to watch. I don't know how many did. We'll see the ratings come out today. The U.S. playing Venezuela in the quarterfinal round of the World Baseball Classic. And our guy, Luis Arraez, why can't the Twins find players like him? This is second home run of the game at a packed house in Miami. Never said that before. That gave Venezuela the lead against the United States. But they don't have this guy. Unfortunately, he's playing in the National League East again. Trey Turner, on an 0-2 pitch, crushes this for a grand slam. He had another home run last night for the U.S. as the United States beats Venezuela. They beat Cuba last night. The U.S. will play the winner of Japan and Mexico for the championship coming up tomorrow night in Miami. Again, I don't know if anybody's excited about this. I don't know if anybody's watched. You're going head-to-head with the NCAA basketball tournament like we talked about when we heard this event was coming back. But as I said late last week, I don't know when else you would play it. You're not going to play it at the end of the season. This is probably the worst time for it. It's during spring training. But the U.S., thanks to Trey Turner's heroics on both Saturday and last night to get them to the championship round, it sets up perfectly for the United States to play Japan. If Otani's team wins tonight, and granted Mexico's been on an unreal run, that they would get a matchup with the United States Tuesday night. Lastly, we had our first number 1 seed go down in the women's basketball tournament. Watching this game late last night, because the men's games weren't interesting to me. The Gonzaga and TCU, no. Miami was playing Indiana, no. Ole Miss was playing Stanford. Why? This is more intriguing to me because these are actual road games, like we showed you with the Jackrabbits having to play on the road at Virginia Tech. Ole Miss playing at Stanford last night. And I say at Stanford because it was on Stanford's floor. And the Rebels, they won 24 basketball games this season. It's not like they're chopped liver here. I mean, everybody looks at the top half of the SEC. South Carolina, unbeaten. LSU, awfully darn good. Tennessee is really, really good. They were up at halftime against Stanford. Cardinal won 29 games, all right? They are legit contenders, and they couldn't do anything against Ole Miss. Their defense was phenomenal, and they go in to Palo Alto and win it to advance to the Sweet 16. First time in 16 years for Ole Miss to make it there. And I say this again because I got plenty of heat about it last year. The women's tournament, to me, is just better than the men's tournament. It just is. You have more of these happen. Grant, I know you had a bunch of upsets on the men's side, but these are more impressive because these are actual road games. Ole Miss was playing a road game and won. If someone were to beat South Carolina, that would be amazing. Like tonight, Baylor plays Connecticut. That's a road game for Baylor. They're on the road at UConn. That's why, to me, I prefer watching the women's tournament than the men. The men have had great action. Been fun. But more often than not, the basketball tends to be better. I know I stirred up the hornet's nest on this last year, and we'll wait till tonight. We'll see what the second round does, but it's produced some pretty good theater over the last few days. We're due for a break. We come back. Our good friend Jeff Kolpack will be by. Recap the weekend it was for the Bison on the mats down in Tulsa. And get you ready as North Dakota State opens spring football later this week. Hot Mike returns on this Monday morning on WDAY Extra at InForum.com.
Time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
Well, we start each and every Monday with our colleague from the Bison Media Zone and the Forum, Jeff Kolpack, joins us here in studio. I want to start
golf
with
show
this.
week.
Is it back?
It's back
How
this
about
week.
that?
I know it doesn't feel like it.
No, ain't no part of that.
You're stuck in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah. Well, what are we, like 2 weeks out from the Masters, 3 weeks out for the Masters? I don't think we're going to have any snow off the ground by the time the Masters comes around here in 2023. I want to start with this. I was watching the end of the K-State game with Kentucky yesterday and saw our good friend Gene Taylor pop up briefly on CBS's Shot. A lot of attention afterwards about hiring of Jerome Tang, who was a career assistant to be the new Kansas, fired Bruce Weber, guy who'd been around for a while as the men's basketball coach. Our guy's done okay with the two sports you got to nail, football and men's basketball. He's got a Big 12 champion in football and a Sweet 16 now in men's basketball.
Well, you think about it, and he's done this now 3 times.
Yeah.
It's a tough hire. Remember, he when he hired Craig Bohl, Casey Bradley, Gus Bradley was the odds-on favorite, was the popular guy. And he went against the grain because Gus didn't have any Division I experience. He went with Craig, and that worked out pretty well. It was a tough decision. He gets to Kansas State. You got a guy named Bill Snyder there, who's been there forever, got a stadium named after you. So he somehow got to maneuver and figure out the transition. How do I get rid of this guy in a tasteful way, in a tasteful manner, and hire a guy I think can bring us to the next level? And that's what he did. They came to some sort of agreement with Bill Snyder. I don't know. I'm sure those behind-the-scenes talks weren't pleasant. But he made that, pulled it off, hires Chris Kleiman, and they win a Big 12 championship this year. Bruce Weber, popular guy.
Yeah.
Popular guy at the studio. I mean, just a longtime coach. And I think he plateaued, wasn't getting any better. And so Gene said, okay, I got to figure out a way to tastefully get rid of Bruce Weber and hire my guy. And I got to do it in a manner that doesn't come off as mean-spirited, and I'm getting rid of this old guy. And he pulled it off again. So that just comes to mind now.
Yeah.
3 hires, that it wasn't that easy. I mean,
even here, hiring Kleiman to take over when Bowl left. We know, obviously, you wrote the book on it of all the drama that happened there. And he hired Dave. Now, granted, you could say those were both, they're in-house. How difficult was that? But, Richmond had no previous coaching experience. Kleiman had only 1 year of head coaching experience at Loras before taking over the Bison. And he left, Gene left before even either one of those guys was a head coach because he got the Iowa gig.
Yeah, it's like the Sun Tzu Art of War. Every battle's won before it's fought. So obviously he did his homework and all that. It wasn't like, okay, Bull's leaving. Oh my God, what do I do now? I think there was a decision made over the course of 2-3 years with Chris Kleiman, and he saw enough, and it was a no-brainer for him. And same with Dave. I think he saw enough of Dave over the years.
Worked out.
And the good ADs, the good administrators pay attention to everything.
Right.
If some AD says, I'm not sure about that, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You know everything that's going on.
Or at least you should.
Yeah.
If you're good at your job, you better know everything that's going on there. So Kansas State was just, I don't know if it was waiting Kolpack to be a sleeping giant, but boy, they have, with the departures of Texas and Oklahoma now after this coming year to the SEC, K-State's lying in wait to become the team maybe in the Big 12.
Who's their point guard? The smaller guy.
You're gonna test me.
Anyway, he's Vinny Shaheed all over again.
Bit.
I look at him, and that's how Vinny played at NDSU and was able to really take over a game if needed, get to the hole if needed. And that's the type of position that you need that guy.
Noel,
yeah.
Marquise Noel.
Yeah.
He's really, really good. Yeah.
And he's 6'1", he looks like, but he's strong as an ox.
Not even. He got him listed 5'8".
He's 5'8".
5'8".
But strong as an ox and can just get to the hole. And those are the type of guys that get you to the Sweet 16. You need that guard. You need that position. You need that Ben Woodside. You need that Lawrence Alexander and again, Vinny Shaheed.
Manhattan to Manhattan, because they're playing in Madison Square Garden. That's where the Sweet 16 is for K-State. So
make a T-shirt out of it.
They'll turn out. They'll be all right there. I was riveted this weekend watching the NCAA wrestling championships. I've never watched the Blood Round. And for people that don't follow wrestling, the Blood Round is Friday night. That's for guys that have lost. That's if you win, you are All-American. If you lose, you're done. So I'm watching Jared Franick and Michael Caliendo. Caliendo, by the way, was wrestling for the 4th time on Friday because he had to win twice during the day, once earlier on Friday, just to get to that spot. The intensity, man, was off the charts. It was really good stuff.
I was a little worried after Fronic lost the Lehigh guy. I thought that was a beatable guy. And when he lost,
Josh Humphreys was the guy from Lehigh that beat him.
So when that happened, oh man, not again. Yeah. You know, here's a guy, but he obviously, I think experience is helping him, and he's coming back next year. Caliendo's coming back, hopefully,
presumably,
hopefully.
Right?
if they can get another 2-3 guys to up their level, they'll be challenging for a Big 12 regular season title.
I would think
again.
They were right there this past year. This was highlights of Franick from Friday, where he after he lost to Humphreys Friday morning in the quarterfinals. So we went to
Is this sudden victory.
That was Saturday.
That was Saturday. Okay.
This was the late match on Friday, beating Will Lewan from Michigan. That earned him All-American. You could see he's such a stoic guy that he rarely shows any emotion. This was the match against Peyton Robb from Nebraska, who beat him to start the season. This was in sudden victory here.
There was more going on than just a match for third.
Absolutely. And the match was 1-1. All he needed right here, when he hooks the leg, he gets the takedown there. That got him the 2 points to win in sudden victory, which got him into the third place match. And the Humphreys kid beat him again for third. He ended up finishing in 4th overall. Caliendo took 7th, and to Jeff's point, Caliendo's just a redshirt freshman, and holy cow, the sky could be the limit for that guy at 165. And he's in an awfully tough weight class. I mean, there are some dudes there, but
165 is right in the middle, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you get some good athletes who are strong as an ox.
Well, and the guy that David Carr, who had beaten Franek, he moved up to 165. He didn't even make the final this year at 165. The intensity of that was really, and to see the crowd, I mean, I hope it gets a chance to come back to U.S. Bank Stadium because it was wiped out. That was the year COVID was supposed to, it was supposed to be there in 2020. It was fantastic, man. That is some primo event there that I'd like to see in person.
Wrestling has its own following for sure. I'm there's people that go to that every year, no matter what. It's like the Class B used to be now. After you ruined it.
Yeah, it's my fault. I did it all.
Thanks again.
Yeah, it was
way to ruin the premier event in North Dakota high school athletics.
You can talk to your friends of the high school association.
You pushed that to no end.
I would like to see it because I think you have the same teams there every single year. There are 3 regions that we've done this for 10 years now. We've only seen one separate team come out of that region. So it's time.
Well,
to
use your
change things
influence to tell these other teams to get better.
I'll do my best there. Bison women have expectedly probably we thought was going to happen with that game with Oregon on Friday night. Oregon's, by the way, really good. I'm interested to see now the next step. I would imagine there are going to be a couple departures off this roster. You don't know if it's any names, but you never know. I think Jory Collins is probably bracing for that as well. There's probably going to be some players that will leave.
Heaven Hamling's coming back, and I know the concern is Elle Evans, and everything I've heard is she's certainly all set to come back next year
for another season. You wonder about the players, I guess, down the road on that.
The ones that haven't played a little bit, maybe, yeah. And good for them. If they haven't played, then go find
somewhere else.
Find a lower division team to play.
But after seeing, and I meant this point at the start of the show, after seeing what the Jacks did again, won 29 games, won another NCAA tournament game, I don't know if the gap has closed any, Jeff. I think it maybe have gotten wider after what we saw this time last year to where we are now. What do you make of that?
I don't know. Maya sounds really good, and sometimes a player makes so many other players better. And, Peyton Burkhardt, they lose 2 players.
Selin and Burkhardt, yep.
Well, they just lose 2 players. Well, there's a lot into those 2 players. There's a lot of leadership, a lot of veteran stability, and every year's a new. We'll see. I mean, NDSU has at least they've closed the gap to everybody else. Oh yeah, South Dakota for sure. I mean, that's naturally
they have passed. Yes,
but have they closed it to South Dakota State? Too early to call.
I don't think so yet.
I'm talking about next year.
Okay,
they didn't this year. No question. They didn't this year.
SDSU still has some studs back. And they have a recruiting class. Looks all right. What do you make of what the Gophers did with Dawn Plitzowite coming back? That's a name that was out there. I don't know if it got a lot of traction because everyone was looking at AJ, but Dawn certainly has a ton of recruiting ties in the Midwest as well.
Good hire.
I think so, too.
I'm not sure how she did at West Virginia this year.
They made the tournament again. They won 20-some-odd games, so she can coach.
She can recruit. She can. Yeah, it's a good hire, but we'll see if she can close the borders.
See, here's the thing. They got an outstanding class this past year, and 3 of the 4 are going to be back next season. We haven't heard on a 4th yet if she's committed to coming back next season. So they've done a heck of a job there. I am interested, though, what they can do with knowing the youth of Minnesota. And in that, I mean, the Big Ten is loaded this year. Indiana and Iowa are top seeds this year. Caitlin Clark's coming back for Iowa. She's not going anywhere. I will say this, though. That's 2 straight coaches that have left South Dakota that are now in the Big Ten because Amy Williams at Nebraska and now Dawn's at Minnesota. That's pretty good stuff out of USD.
David Herbster, give him credit for, you talk about Gene Taylor hiring David Herbster. Give it up to him.
No doubt. Let's take a break. We come back. We mentioned off the top, it is the start of Bison Spring Ball this week. Your vacation's over, buddy. You have about a week.
I know.
Spring Ball is back. And actually, there's some stuff to talk about this year with Spring Ball with the Bison. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Central Cass boys coach, state champion coach Matt Norman coming up in our second hour. Back with Jeff Kolpack here. Question comes in, emailed, ask Kolpack, what are the chances Paul Mills is the coach at Oral Roberts next season?
Hopefully 100%. No, hopefully 0%. I thought you said Texas Tech.
No, he's the coach at Oral Roberts next season.
I know.
What do you think? Name is out there, obviously, for a couple jobs.
I thought it'd be done deal by now.
Yeah.
So I'm losing my confidence that he's going to take another job.
That was just a bad performance. They just stunk up the joint. I go, Duke is good, but
it was a bad matchup.
It was bad.
It's like
yeah.
NDSU women. I mean, the Oregon, that was a bad first round matchup.
Yep. But still, Oral Roberts has got some guys you think to hang around there, and
they're veteran guys too. They came out deer in the headlights a little bit.
16-0.
Yeah.
In the first 7, they didn't have a point for the first 7 minutes of the game.
But they didn't play well in the Summit tournament the first 2 games. They played okay. It wasn't like they were steamrolling through that tournament. Just NDSU ran out of gas and they stomped them in that final game. But they played one good game in the Summit tournament, I thought, for them.
It was the championship game.
So, and you're not. I just didn't think they were playing that.
Yeah,
great.
they messed around with UND. St. Thomas, they were trailing in that game in the second half.
St. Thomas could have won that game.
Yeah, that could have caused some real havoc there if that ended up coming to pass. But as it turned out, Oral Roberts rallied to win the game. So as of now, Paul Mills is still the coach of the Golden Eagles. I mentioned before we went to break, North Dakota State football is back on the field on Thursday morning, start of spring ball. And unlike past seasons where we have, I wouldn't say scratching our heads, but we've had to dig to get some really juicy stories. We have not the case this year, my man, for spring ball.
Plenty to write about, isn't there? And especially on defense, which you got so many new parts to it. I'm not sure if we're going to get any answers. You don't really get answers anymore in spring ball. Maybe a 2-deep depth chart at the end of it.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how much that
stock you can
really put into that.
Yep.
The veterans won't play. You're not going to see them. It's all going to be about defense. We can't watch practice, so
we can watch a bit more so than in fall camp. I will admit that. But there are, the transfers that have come in and the early acceptance guys. Jaden Pickett is here, true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
I look at. Obviously, Hunter Zenzen, Marcus Shepard, those are the 2 transfers, one from Bowling Green, the other obviously from Iowa State. Those are guys that are going to get some run, I imagine, and they're going to be needed with the losses that the defense has had. That those are guys that are going to get out there and get a chance to prove themselves.
And let's call it like it is. This is all about catching South Dakota State now.
Yep.
So this is for the first time, I think, since the Division I FCS title started, that the Bison are really in the pursuit mode. Like they are today. I mean, I know they've lost the Dakota marker before, but now South Dakota State won its first national title.
Right.
That's a whole different level.
Yep.
So now you are chasing the Jackrabbits, and we'll see if that changes anything. See if it changes any urgency, because you can talk all you want, but when you're coming off national titles,
right?
The complacency thing, it's very real, and it's very normal, and it's very common for human beings to maybe not have that drive that you had because you're fat and happy, right?
Yeah, right.
And to avoid the fat and happy is tough. That's tough coaching. I mean, that's Jim Kramer. That's his job, and he's been good at it.
They've excelled at that, frankly, over the last decade. I'm interested in a couple spots. Linebacker is one, to see what they have youth-wise and if they have changed up any positions of guys. And obviously the secondary is another, because safety's a spot. The Bison are going to have 2 new guys out there. With the losses that they had from both graduation and the portal, who's going to be at least getting first-team reps? I understand it might not mean anything for the season opener on September 2nd against Eastern Washington, but at least it gives us some clarity of who they're looking at right now. That's what I'm interested come Thursday and Friday of this week.
I'm more interested in safety, I think, than corner. Corner, you got Price back. And
yep.
I guess Shepard, we don't know about. He's a MAC guy.
Right.
I'm not sure what that means, but it's just so many question marks. Just new coaches.
Right, a whole new defensive staff, basically.
When's the last time they were this green back there?
On the back end of the defense, 17 maybe. Allison, Wimbush, those guys were youngish then. Maybe 16. It's been a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a little bit since they've had this kind of greenness, if that's the best word to describe, on on the back. Even up front, I'll look at that. We talked about it all year in the middle of with Dutenheffer and Heisman, who grew up as the season went along. Eli's back, Will's back, but now on the outside with Wage's departure, Cava's going to be back, and we'll see how healthy he is if he does anything during spring reps. To your point about the older guys, about how much they will go through or not. Dylan Hendricks with another year under his belt. Those are guys that are going to still be asked to be called upon to do some more there.
Without Eli, there's no question it was average to decent.
Yep.
It is okay. It wasn't the standout national title defensive lines we've seen, but again, a lot of that was experience, and then you lose your All-American candidate. That never helps. That unit needs to take another level up.
It always happens.
I think they will too. I think they will.
I think so as well. Again, you've got now a new defensive coordinator. To answer your first question, I have all this newness. I don't think since 2011 probably. Maybe when Hazelton, maybe 2010, because after Bresky was let go and Hazelton was the new DC, Brian Ward came in, Gazer came in. I mean, that was about as new a position group with coaches and players as I can remember.
And my gut feeling, my instinct is that Nick Gazer not coaching the entire line, and now it's broken up with defensive ends and defensive tackles like it was before.
Right.
My gut instinct thinks that'll help the defensive line.
Jeff Phelps is going to coach the D tackles, and you've got obviously now Gazer coaching the rest of the D line with Petrino running the defense. I would venture a guess probably 2010, and that's when everything changed. They were coming off 3-win season that year in 2009. That to have that much of new coaches and a mix of new players, I'm going to venture a guess probably that long ago.
It's 1A on my list when I get to the office after this.
Yeah.
When was the last time the Bison were this green in the defensive and basically defensive backfield, but defense in general?
Just defense in general, I'd go probably that far back. I'd say 2010 with the amount of new
wasn't
coaches.
Jurek a young player? And
Cole was a redshirt, was
Hardy
a sophomore that year. Kyle Emanuel was a redshirt freshman. Dudzik redshirt. I mean, they were all or true freshmen. Excuse me. In 2010, they were. So it's about as young as they could get for back then, and that's why typically the last few years, spring balls have been all right. Well, who's going to be the guy? And honestly, I'll bring this up before we go. Is quarterback a spot we need to look at? I believe it is.
I think so too. I think so too. I think Cam's a good quarterback, but at NDSU there's a certain level, he's won a national title.
I don't think it's about Cam Miller. I think it's more about Cole Payton. Is Cole Payton where they think he needs to be? This is now his third year there. To me, Cam is what he is. It's now about is Cole Payton as advanced as he needs to be. You always say year 3 is the year of better click. That's what, and we were told that. I'm not just saying it's your own opinion. That's what we're always told. That to me is where are we at with Cole Payton? That's what I'd like to see out of this spring ball.
That's another story. That's like 15 things I got this week.
But you know what I mean? Like I think there's more than a handful of fans that want to know what's the Bison quarterback situation.
At some point.
Yeah. Is he just a running guy that comes in to get a first down on 3rd and 6, or can he actually throw the ball down the field? He hasn't been asked to do that yet. Is it because he can't, or is it because it hasn't been?
Is he inaccurate in practice, which is
no one's told us that. I would have think we would have heard that by now. That we just don't trust him to be able to do that.
Don't you think you've seen it by now too?
The argument would be maybe it hasn't presented itself. I disagree. I disagree with that, but it's another storyline to watch. Running back's another one too, by the way, because to your point with Tamarick Williams not going to probably get a ton of reps. Who's going to get some? Who's actually going to carry the ball during the spring? Got to have somebody,
Barica?
Right? I mean, it's Barica Penu and TK Marshall, likely 1 and 2 there. Good stuff. Thanks for starting off.
Welcome back to football, Dom.
Here we go. Football season's back in Fargo. We'll take a break. We'll start hour 2 of Hot Mike right after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning edition of Hot Mike, WDAY Extra, InForum.com. Later in the hour, we'll rip the Band-Aid off on the Timberwolves. What happened, again, another thing that happened Friday night is we don't have enough televisions. My Twitter feed starts blowing up that Anthony Edwards got hurt. Of course, why wouldn't he get hurt at the end of the season when the Wolves need him? And Cat still isn't playing. We'll if you missed the injury, we'll show you that coming up later on in our second hour. But as we mentioned off the top of the show, we put a bow on state tournament championship season Saturday night in Bismarck with the Class B boys basketball championship game. Central Cass and Shiloh Christian 1-2 as the seedings bore out. And I think I got to do some double checking. Since we had seeding now for 10 years, I think it's either 7 or 8 times now. It's been 1-2 that's played in the championship. So that's worked out. You like an upset, but most of the time you want 1 and 2 playing in the title game. I know our next guest certainly wanted that to happen, and the Squirrels end up winning the championship, an unbeaten season to wrap up 2023. It's our pleasure to welcome onto Hot Mic now state champion head basketball coach Matt Norman joins us. We were joking off air, and I mentioned this. I remember interviewing you shortly after you got the gig, and knowing full well what the challenges were with Richland and Kindred and Oak Grove. It has been a steady climb up, man. Congratulations. That has to feel even sweeter of what happened on Saturday night.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's been a real fun ride over the last 8 years as a head coach. There have been some bumps and bruises that we took early on, but just proud of the kids, proud of their efforts in the offseason to help get us to where we're at now.
All right, so what was the most either random person you heard from or most obscure person you heard from after the game on Saturday?
There's a couple people that randomly reached out. What was really fun is I heard from some of my old teachers and coaches back in East Grand Forks, so that was really, really cool.
Well, yeah, what did that mean to you to hear from that? Like, I'm assuming people maybe you hadn't heard from in 20 years, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while. Honestly, it's just huge. It just shows kind of the support that one that I have, which is wonderful, but two that high school athletics has. To cross over into Minnesota and have some people come over or reach out and wish us congratulations and watch us and root for us throughout the tournament just shows how much impact high school athletics has on a community.
I'm always interested to know, I guess, the thoughts, who you were thinking of during the final seconds when the clock went 0. Who were you thinking of? What went through your mind?
Honestly, I was thinking about the seniors and the kids that have come through the program, truly. And the other thing was I wanted to make sure Mason Bussey didn't throw that ball through the scoreboard. And so those were my thoughts. Just super proud of those kids and what they accomplished. And those, I was just overflowing with pride with the kids that were behind me on that bench.
Did you ever think of doing like the Jimmy V, like running around, not knowing who to hug, especially when the student section came on the floor?
Honestly, I didn't even have that chance. I turned to my assistant coach, Jason Belke, and before I knew it, Jay Bachman had put me in a bear hug. So I didn't even get a chance to do any of that stuff.
Okay, so Bachman, by the way, lost it. Did the tears happen? I didn't see it on TV. Did they eventually come?
Yeah, it was tough. My mom and dad came down on the court, and we had some seniors from years before, and so it was pretty emotional for sure.
We're watching highlights, Matt, of how the title game played out. Describe, especially that fourth quarter of when you guys putting the hammer down of how you that last quarter of why that maybe you saved your best basketball for the final quarter of the season.
We might have. We wanted to make sure that we made it a full court game just from the tip because we felt we could get them up and running. They definitely had more length than us, but with that extra size, it means that they have to run those 90 feet. Plus every possession. And so if we could continue to keep the tempo up, we felt eventually we could attack the rim a little bit cleaner. And Cole Holzer had a great fourth quarter. So did Sam. So did Chase Bachmeyer. We had a lot of kids that really stepped up, and it worked out, thankfully.
You see the massive humanity out there. I mean, just you're hugging guys. Just that's the culmination. What was that experience like of just being able to go and exhale?
And that's what it was. I was just going to say it was just able to kind of take a breath.
Yeah.
Look out there on the court and you see all of the kids, their parents, the community, and it just feels really, really great to put a bow on such a fantastic season. We're obviously thrilled that we were able to be a state champion, but this year was just fun for so many different reasons. Those kids just worked their tails off. They love one another. Selfless group, and so we had a ton of fun. Aside from wins and losses, practice was a blast. They're just fun people to be around.
To do it is one thing, Matt. To do it without a loss is another. This is now an all-time team. Describe that.
It's a great feeling. The kids' ability to take a look at each game and just glean different things from the experience. We were undefeated, which is great. we can hang our hat on that. But each game had, a number of things that we really, really needed to clean up. And, when we would come to practice and the coaches and I would say, you know what, hey, we did some of these things really well, but here's areas of focus we really got to improve on X, Y, and Z. Instead of the kids just brushing that off, they really embraced it.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what, let's see if we can get better every day.
So as a coach, and you never want to lose, but when you beat Sargent County to end the regular season, are you thinking in the back of your head, okay, we can't lose now or it's over?
Yeah, we were just, anytime you win a stretch of games, you're just kind of waiting for the other shoe to fall or to drop. And so once we were able to make it through into the region tournament, we knew that we were going to be nervous. We knew we were going to be excited. We knew that there's going to be a lot of energy, and we just had to execute. And thankfully, the boys did a great job.
Well, there was a couple games. I remember the game in Hankinson in the middle of the year. You won by one there. There was a chance. Oak Grove had you. Yep. I mean, there were a couple times where teams had you on the ropes. When you won those games, was it you got a sense, hey, we got something beyond special here?
It definitely showed that we had a crew that was resilient, just really, really gritty. Credit given to Hankinson, Oak Grove, Kindred region matchups where it was a really, really tight game. We just were, for whatever reason, able to kind of get over that hump. And when we were going into those timeouts late in those games, anywhere from Hankinson to the region championship to us being down going into the fourth quarter in the state tournament, there's just a certain era of confidence and just trust in one another. And that's how we knew we could be confident that we could execute when the time came.
The reason I bring that up, Matt, is because the game that happened Thursday night with Warwick, because they have you down by a little bit here. Was there any flinching then on the sideline?
I think there was a flinch or two, but we were really, really excited about just having the opportunity to go out. And so that was kind of our message. Like, hey, enjoy the moment. We got to get our legs underneath us, though. We got to settle down. You could feel the nerves on Thursday going into the game. Kids were just not normally and weren't as loose as they normally were. And then we go into the fourth quarter. We knew that Feather could shoot the ball. We had seen his stats throughout the season. And so we knew it was a possibility if he got some clean looks. We chased him in the fourth quarter and cooled him down a little bit. But we just had to execute. So thankfully we did.
That's a moment there where you can say as much as you want, and then actually going out and doing it is a whole other different thing, right? You could talk about the pressure of the state tournament where the number one, the lights are on, but it's a whole, until the guys actually went and did it, it's probably a whole other experience.
It is. I don't think you can duplicate that situation until you're there. I'm really, really proud of the kids and their ability to settle in, but it was, you could definitely feel the nerves. I mean, it's just, it's the excitement. It's the last B. These kids have wanted to be there since they were shooting on their driveways, pretending to be the players that were in high school at that time. And so a ball of nerves for sure. We're very, very happy that we were able to kind of settle in that fourth quarter.
Special winter, Matt. Obviously, we mentioned what Jay's team did 2 weeks prior. How much do you think one fed off the other?
I think that it really just creates even more competition. Our coaches were talking, and we were undefeated when the girls won their state championship, and we were still the second best team in the school, basketball-wise. But our athletic programs did a really great job this year. Our football team did a fantastic job. We go into our volleyball team is very competitive. Wrestling, both boys and girls did a fantastic job. Girls and boys basketball, those things kind of build on one another. It just creates a buzz in the hallway and excitement in the community, and we fed off that energy for sure.
So when the girls won it, you had to know, okay, it's title or bust, right?
Well, that's what we wanted for sure. When the girls won it, though, we just wanted to celebrate for them, get some close relationships with a lot of those kids, and obviously their coaching staff. They're just a big part of what we do. And so we wanted to celebrate with them, but it definitely raised the bar for us for sure.
You mentioned it, and I know it was the overarching theme the entire weekend being the final Class B basketball tournament. I know Jay told me this. They embraced that. They wanted to go out and win it. Did you have that same message to your team?
Yeah, we just wanted to go out and live in the moment, make sure that we were as present as possible. It's such a cool atmosphere at the B. I've been there for many years, obviously watching, and so when we got there, we definitely had our sights set on that late game on Saturday. And so this is our chance to kind of be the bookend of a really, really cool piece of North Dakota history.
I had Troy Raessler on the show, about a month ago before the 3 classes came on. Obviously, who was the last coach to take Central Cass the state. I know he goes to he watches still. I'm sure you heard from him. What was that interaction like?
It's unbelievable. Mr. Raessler and I are great friends. We talked before the games, during the game. He met me on the court there. He's part of the crew that stormed. He's been just such a staple in Central Cass basketball. He's still a junior high coach. We talked. He watches film. It was really, really special to have him be a part of that.
So, I mean, what is today like? Is it like you put your feet up, man? What's on the docket? Do you enjoy this, or is it right back to the grind?
Honestly, it's a little bit back to the grind just because we have things that we have to make sure that don't fall to the wayside. We got to have player meetings here. We got to collect uniforms. We got to make sure that our kids are doing things in our classroom. And so there's not a lot of layover after this. And so it's almost immediately back to normal, which is good. But it's still just such a busy time. I'm not sure all of it's even set in.
That was my next question. When do you think this will hit that, hey, we just did this? We went unbeaten and won the championship.
It's going to be a while. We're still going back and looking at things, and I've had some former players and community members send me little clips and pictures of either us in a timeout or moments from when we coached them early on, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and all that. It just makes you so proud to be a part of something like this.
I'm going to give you a shout out, man, because you still wear a tie. There's not many that still do that. You and Brad Miller were both wearing tie. I mean, how many coaches still do that?
I make my staff do it. I think you dress up for things that are important to you. At least I do in my world. That doesn't mean that other coaches don't care, but if we're going to be at the state tournament, we're going to have a tie on, and so we're going to be ready to at least be as prepared as possible as far as looking good goes.
Hey, look good, play good. That's always what I was told, right?
Yeah, that's what I was told too, and I'm a creature of habit, so I can't break that cycle.
I have always maintained, especially since the football field got turf and softball complex, you guys have had Class A facilities. That's going to be reality now. How do you approach this now in this new world where you're going to play some teams? I know that you have some that you haven't, about now the next jump of what's to come.
I think you got to be ready to roll with the punches. There's still a lot up in the air with how this class is going to work. And so we've got to be willing to kind of grow with the change. It's going to be something that is new and different. The competition is going to be similar to what we have, but we're going to add some teams, obviously, that have been competitive. And so our region changed a little bit, and we've played some of these kids in the summer, so we have just a general idea of what they do, who they are. But we got to roll with the punches. There's going to be a lot of different changes, and it's going to be maybe a little bit of a flawed process because it's the first year we've tried it.
Yeah, do you get a sense there might be some schools that will not miss playing you? Although you might miss seeing some friends of yours, but I get a sense there might be some. You know what? Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Maybe that's true. We've got a lot of good relationships here in the past, 8 to 10 years in Region 1. We're going to miss playing them for sure. We've been pretty successful over the last couple of years, and so they might be ready to see us go, but they've beat me probably as many times as I've beat them. So sometimes the feeling might be mutual.
I got an email to ask you about Sam Kobervig and what kind of player and what he's meant to your team.
Sam's unreal. He's just such a selfless kid. He's been a team captain here for a couple of years. Voted unanimously by his teammates, and it's because he's willing to do what it takes to get things done. If you go back to our region tournament, he didn't score the ball super well. He did score in our first game, but then kind of went on a scoring drought. But we still had to have him on the floor because of the other things that he was doing. He took 2 charges in the fourth quarter against Kindred. His willingness to sacrifice for his team it's just profound. And so it was really fun to see him have the tournament he had. He's obviously a very skilled player, but his character is the part that I'm most excited about.
Well, man, I hope you get a chance to take a nap or something just to unwind, because I know the last 48 hours has been crazy. Congratulations. I really appreciate you coming on this morning, and enjoy this a little bit, okay?
Hey, thanks so much. We're glad to be here.
There he goes. Matt Norman, Central Cass boys basketball head coach, state champion head basketball coach after the Squirrels knocked off Shiloh Christian on Saturday night to win the final edition of the Boys State B, and they are on their way with Shiloh, with Delax Burlington, with Beulah on there, and Thompson, who ended up finishing 5th, on their way up to the middle class. I thought it was fitting, the teams that you had playing on Friday night, all moving up, and that Thompson ended up winning 5th, again reinforces to me that this is the way to go. And that's not taking anything away from Central Cass, what they end up doing. But I think there is a sense of people out there that want to see what the B used to be. Granted, I don't share that sentiment, but I do think when you can rubber stamp who's going to represent that region in October and November, that's not necessarily fair. And I understand it's about competition and you got to beat the teams anyway, but I don't think there's anybody out there that could tell me that Shiloh wasn't going to win Region 5 this year. And I was doing a little research on this, and I ran out of time before the game started on Saturday night. I'm thinking, who is the last Region 5 champ? Because I know Shiloh's made it, but they haven't won the whole thing. It hasn't happened in our time, and I was just going back and looking here. Now I got a little time before we go to break, just on the teams that have won the state championship. And obviously it has been East heavy here over the last decade. Oak Grove won it. The only one that threw off the apple cart basically was Rugby winning it in 15. Since then, it's been on this side of the state. And I say this for those listening on the eastern side of the state. Four Winds has won it twice. Kindred's won it. Thompson's won it. Hillsboro won it twice. It's not been on the western side of the state. Just looking here over the last, so Beulah won it out of Region 7 and 12, North Star in Region 4, Carrington in 3, Linton in 3. It's been a while. Trinity out of 7, Mayport CG out of 2, North Border out of 2. Maybe Standing Rock, maybe, out of Region 5. It's been over 2 decades since it's happened. Be all right to change things up. It's going to be difficult for everybody, myself included. But change is okay on this one. Let's just see how it works before we're ready to think it's terrible. Speaking of terrible, we will show you 2 pieces of video that certainly were eye-opening over the weekend, including Anthony Edwards, an update on the Wolves superstar. We come back here on a Monday morning edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning edition of Hot Mic here at WDAY Extra and Forum.com. Our thanks to Matt Norman for coming on. Hey, tomorrow on the show, new minted All-American wrestler Jared Franick will join us tomorrow, 10:35. Excited about that. After his performance this past weekend down in Tulsa, which we showed you earlier in our program, he'll be joining us tomorrow after a dynamite weekend, finishing 4. I know it's money we want. He wanted the top of the podium. But 4 is still pretty good. That's coming up tomorrow on the show. Real quick here, we'll do this before we go to break. And then we got a couple other things we got to show you. The Timberwolves play tonight in New York against the Knicks. Anthony Edwards will not be playing for the Timberwolves because of what happened Friday night against Chicago. In a rather innocuous kind of deal here early in the game, making a pass, comes down awkwardly, and you can see immediately him pounding the floor after he went down. This here, you're thinking, oh, my God. I mean, he's broken his ankle. He's done. Thankfully, it did not appear, I guess it turned out not to be as worse as it looked. He did not play Saturday night. The Wolves lost that game to the Raptors. They lost this game to the Bulls. He's not going to play tonight against the Knicks. Star Tribune reports he'll be evaluated on a day-to-day basis. The team is hopeful he can return sooner than later. Now, the Timberwolves only have 10 games remaining in the season. And as things stand in the Western Conference right now, there's no wiggle room here for Minnesota. They picked a bad time to have both their top players out because we know Cat hasn't played since Thanksgiving, although there's optimism growing that he may come back soon. But the Wolves have 10 games left. Right now, they are tied with the Lakers for the 9 spot in the Western Conference standings. They've fallen 2 games under 500. They picked a bad time to have a losing streak here, which, as it stands now, they would host the Lakers in the play-in game. But you want to play LeBron James in a 1-game deal, do or die? I don't like that. I don't care if the Wolves are home or not. I don't like that matchup at all. As we mentioned, they only got 10 games to go. You need Anthony Edwards back pronto. Or Cat, one or the other. Give us somebody here to get through the stretch run. But as it stands now, Cat's not playing tonight. We'll see what his status is. Or excuse me, Ant's not playing tonight. We'll see what his status is after that. But boy, when you saw that, that looked like he was done for the year after that play on Friday night against Chicago. Thankfully, not as bad as that. We'll take a break. We come back. Much more on the Gophers' hiring of Don Plitzowite, how that affects things here in the Upper Midwest. A couple other things we'll chat about here on this Monday morning on a recap and a busy weekend. We'll do that right after this on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, InForum.com. Welcome back, everybody, on a busy Monday morning. Email just came in for the Twins broadcast schedule for 2023. Almost need a drum roll for this to get people ready for it, because stunningly, for the 6th time in franchise history, all 162 games will be televised. As of now, remember, Bally has gone bankrupt, but MLB has said that they will pick up the slack if Bally can't. And a reminder, Dick Bramer will make his season debut with us Wednesday morning from Florida. I believe that game they're televising that day is on TV. So he will join us coming up on Wednesday to start the 2023 season. Here's what you need to know, the breakdown of it for you Twins rubes out there. 153 of the games will be on Bally Sports North as of now. 5 games will be on Fox National. Games against the Guardians, the Tigers. It's in the middle of the summer. I don't think anybody's going to watch that anyway. The White Sox, the Rangers twice against Texas. For some reason, those games got picked up by Fox. 3, I think we had 2 last year. 3 this year on Apple TV+. And that's back. Games against the Guardians, the Cubs. Remember, they play everybody in baseball now. That's the new part of 2023 as well. The schedule, you will play all 29 other teams. And the other game is against the Guardians at Target Field. And then a new one, the Twins will play on Peacock this year for the first time. They did not last year. Peacock, by the way, is NBC's streaming service. They have a Sunday morning game. And that'll be on Sunday, July the 2nd in Baltimore, 11:05 a.m. on Peacock. I don't know how many are going to run out the door and subscribe to that now, unless you're a Premier League fan. You've already got it. So there you have it. So the Twins will be on 153 of their games will be on Bally, the other 9 on a variety of networks, whether it's Fox, Apple TV, or Peacock for this upcoming year. They also had a Q&A part in this, which is interesting. It says, will I be able to stream Twins games this season? This is a big question. And again, I don't know how much Dick Bramer is going to be able to talk to us about this. We'll ask, but he may not be able to just because of where he's at. The answer on this on the Twins website, because I know we're going to get a bunch of people when we're talking about this as we get closer to the start of the season. Yes, if you're a customer of a participating pay TV provider and receive Bally Sports North as part of your channel lineup, you'll be able to stream Bally Sports North's Twins telecast on the app or by visiting ballysports.com. So Like for me, I have DirecTV, so I could stream the Twins games that way on the Bally app. Here's the important part for people that have already cut the cord. At this time, Twins baseball is not available direct to consumer via the Bally Sports Plus. The Twins, Bally, and MLB continue to look toward a path in making Twins baseball more available, and that includes through direct-to-consumer streaming. So there you go. So even if you have the app, you can't watch the Twins because MLB doesn't have a deal with them yet. And I understand. I will do this as we get closer to the season because I think Roku you can't watch. I know YouTube TV you can't watch. There's probably a couple other streaming apps out there that you can't. So, yeah, right now you're kind of SOL on trying to watch the Twins. They make it awfully hard. This is a subject we've talked about, and I know we'll hit again as we get closer to the start of the season. But in the current landscape of things, professional sports are making it awfully hard outside of football to watch your favorite team affordably. Because we're long past the days of just sitting down and watching the game on TV and watching all the games because everybody has their hand in the cookie jar now to be able. And heck, even the NFL's done that now with Thursday night games, with Saturday games, and there's more coming that they're gonna try and get blood from the stone to get as much money as possible, and baseball's certainly going to do that. The problem is, okay, if you want to, like I said, if you want to go and stream it, you can't right now. It just makes you want to bash your head up against the wall. Like I have, and I freely admit I double dip on this, but for obvious reasons. Like I have DirecTV, but I canceled. They were more than willing to take my money twice over because here's a doozy here, you folks. I'll explain this one. I had the extra innings package for years, 15 years. I had the extra innings package so I could watch the Mets. But at the same time, I had the MLB TV app as well. So they're double charging me for the same thing. It wasn't until the start of last baseball season, I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I doing this? I can watch the games here, and if I want to, I can stream it through my television. They were more than willing to take double the money from me on that. I don't know how many other people they're probably doing that to. And that's because I wanted to watch the Mets play. There. And it's brought up to me before. If you want to watch the Twins, you can't even do that on MLB TV because they black them out. Because baseball has the most outdated blackout policy in all of television that if you wanted to watch the Twins, well, I can't watch it through Bally, through their app, but the MLB TV app, I can watch it that way. Nope. Because the Twins territory, which they brag about, is a 4-state area. So if you live in Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, North Dakota, can't. You want to watch the Brewers, you could do that. I don't know if you can watch the Cubs because the Cubs area is pretty large too. I know in Iowa you can't. It is so bad. I mean, this whole thing about blackouts was to protect attendance. Baseball hasn't got a problem with that. Get rid of it. Manfred's so worried about changing the bases and the shift and a pitch clock. You know what would really help? Get rid of the blackout deal so people can actually watch the games. It is by far the most outdated thing they have in baseball right now. And frankly, it's hurting you because if you can't make any deals with the teams and the corresponding streaming services, which, by the way, Diamond Sports Group, who owns Bally, has already filed for bankruptcy, then can you at least go that route? And here's the real kicker. Like those nationally televised games, right? The Fox games, Apple TV game, the Peacock games, they're not available on MLB TV. You can only get them through the stream. So you see what I'm saying? Like already, if I pay I think it's $150 for the year I pay for the MLB TV app, that is money well spent to me because that's how I can watch the Mets play. But for a Twins fan around here, they're not going to go and do that because they can't watch the games. It's so hard right now. Regardless of whatever they've done to put a team on the field and change their uniforms, they're not even going to let you watch the games. This is a topic we're going to get to closer to opening day because it's not going to get resolved. I don't think it's getting resolved between now and opening day. But just it stirred me there when I got that email seeing, all right, great, but how many people can actually watch? Because there's more people than not that I know that have cut the cord and then can't watch. They've run into that roadblock. Email comes in, Dom, what happened to the Claybo kid from Davies? This is going back to a couple weeks ago with the Super 8 tournament. Mason Claybo, standout, the best basketball player in the state, did not play for Davies during the state tournament. I believe it was brought up during our broadcast. Mason had, from what I can tell you, had knee surgery done at the end of the regular season to clear up an issue there. He was rehabbing to try to get back. I know he warmed up for the game on Thursday night when Davies played against North in the or who they play? Red River, in the state semifinals, and didn't play. I know I had more questions than answers we had about what Mason's status was. As far as I can tell, though, the surgery was a success, and he should be ready to go for what will be a very important offseason as he's set to go into his junior year. I would imagine that he'll make up his mind sometime this summer about where he's going to play his collegiate basketball. We know the University of Minnesota has been in to see him. No offer has been extended yet, but Northern Iowa is offered. North Dakota is offered. North Dakota State has offered. I think his talents are going to go beyond the walls of North Dakota. That's just a guess there, but that's a quick answer on that email. Another one comes in, sent by the Twins. It doesn't matter if they're televised or not. They'll suck anyway. Well, could very well be the case, but you know what? Baseball fans are a unique lot, myself included in that. Even if we know our team isn't going to be very good, we still want to watch. You know, because it's the knowing of that. It's the regularity, the everyday part of baseball. Of I can go at 7:00, sit down and watch the team play. And for too many years now, there has been a roadblock to watching the team play. I know it would never come to this, but imagine if the Vikings weren't available on TV ever. I mean, honest, this is what it's at. Or the Wild or the Wolves, where you can't watch the game. That's where we're at with the Twins. And it's been multiple seasons like this for people that, and I know not everybody has cable or DirecTV or watches over an antenna. Some now watch their television basically on their streaming device. And you can't watch. They wanted to save money by not doing a cable or a satellite package and went this route and now are still hosed. It's unreal right now with television sports. It really is. And I got a feeling, folks, it's only going to go worse as we go forward. I think there's only going to be more times to stream. The numbers aren't indicative of going the other way. That's just the name of the game in business right now. Real quick, before we wrap this segment and wrap up our show. We mentioned earlier when Kolpack was on, the Gophers will make it official today. They already have, but the official press conference will come this afternoon with Dawn Plitzowite being announced as the new women's basketball coach at the University of Minnesota. And she's got a interesting job ahead of her here, knowing that she's got Nia Holloway back, Amaya Battle back, Mallory Heyer back. The big one is Mara Braun that is back. That's a heck of a place to start from. Now they need to know that Maggie Sinano is going to come back. They have not heard on her or Casey Baravich for that matter, or Katie, Baravich about a commitment that she will come back. But from everything, and I've known Dawn for a couple of years here, that she knows this area as well as anyone. Heck, she came into North Dakota last year to get Walker Demers out of Grafton to go to South Dakota. She eventually built USD. I mean, Amy Williams had USD at a spot when she left to go to Nebraska, that they won the women's NIT. But then she took USD to a spot, I don't know if many thought, that they could go and beat South Dakota State on a regular basis. And they did. They beat the Jackrabbits in Brookings. They beat the Jackrabbits at the Summit League tournament routinely. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. And now she's got a heck of a job in front of her. University of Minnesota, it's been a while since they've been really good in women's basketball. 20 years since Lindsay Whalen got that team to the Final Four. But to me, it's a sleeping giant. With the amount of great girls basketball players there are in this region, I'm not just talking Minnesota. I'll get South Dakota in there because AJ's feasted on that. North Dakota's got it too. North Dakota's got some dynamite young players that have potential to be players in the Big Ten. Iowa, Wisconsin, that's, to me, how many can she get there? Lindsay Whalen got a good start. Now it's to build off of that. Hannah Shervin's a great example. Hannah Shervin was from Rogers. She transferred from New Mexico to USD, became one of the all-time greats to ever play for the Coyotes. Got him to the Sweet 16 last year. That's what is the challenge facing for Plissowite now at Minnesota. Official press conference coming up later today at 12:30. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll wrap the show. Get you ready for a busy Sports Monday. Lots going on today. We'll say so long right after this on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. As we wrap up, got a message coming in off our conversation on Dawn Plissowite that she should immediately be talking with Madden Greenway. If people who don't follow girls basketball in the state of Minnesota, Madden Greenway is Chad Greenway's daughter, stud for Providence Academy. They won the state championship again on Saturday. They beat Albany to win the 2A title. Greenway's already gone over 2,000 career points. She was phenomenal in the game on Saturday. I watched that for a little bit. Yeah, but everybody's going to be in on her. And I safe to say that Iowa is probably a good bet, considering her dad was a stud there before going on to play for the Minnesota Vikings. But that's the kind of player that she's got to get. Those are the kind of program changers. And maybe the current group of freshmen are that. We saw Battle play up here. She's really good. Holloway was injured all year. Braun didn't play against the Bison. She's phenomenal. Mallory Heyer's really good. I mean, they got pieces. Katie Baravich is a good player. Can they keep them? That'll be intriguing to see here. Now with the portal window opening, where that goes. Rose Michaud, who was their standout big, already has gone to the portal for Minnesota. Something to keep an eye on here over the next couple days. But the official press conference coming up later today down in Minneapolis. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we say so long here on this Monday. A lot going on today. We mentioned the Wolves without Anthony Edwards tonight, 6:30 against the Knicks on Bally Sports North. The Wolves start the day in 9th place in the Western Conference. They've lost 3 in a row. I don't know. The Knicks are good. Everything adding up to be a bad situation tonight at Madison Square Garden. Second round of the women's basketball tournament continues today. Baylor and UConn, 8 o'clock on ESPN. Winner gets off to the Sweet 16. Again, like I mentioned earlier when we were showing those Ole Miss highlights against Stanford, this is a road game for Baylor. It's on UConn's campus. Be a heck of a challenge for them. 8 games today across the ESPN networks to wrap up the second round of the women's basketball tournament. Also, the World Baseball Classic semifinal tonight, Mexico and Japan, 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. The winner will get the United States for the championship coming up on Tuesday. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Jeff Kolpack and to Matt Norman. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at InForum.com. Everybody have a great Monday, a good start to the week, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Have a great Monday, everybody.